Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, ancient Indian blueprints of reasoning. Honestly, it's incredible to think that philosophers thousands of years ago mapped out the exact, precise structures of how our brains process information, how we construct thoughts, and even how we debate today. So we're going to unpack these concepts together and see exactly how they apply to the modern mind. So think about this classic, universal example for a second. Where there's smoke, is there always fire? I mean, really reflect on this. How does your brain automatically connect the dots between a simple visual clue, like, say, a gray puff of smoke out in the distance, and a definitive conclusion, like a blazing fire? You don't actually see the flames, right? Yet your brain instantly leaps to that conclusion. How exactly does that invisible mental machinery work? Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. First, the spark of inference. Then, the invariable rule. Third, inner thought versus outer debate. And finally, what happens when logic fails?
All right, Section 1, the spark of inference.
Ancient thinkers actually called this primary spark Anumāna, which basically means inference through reasoning. It is the fundamental, ground-level act of using pure logic to deduce a truth about the world. When you look out a window, see a plume of smoke rising above the trees, and conclude, there must be a fire, you're actively practicing Anumāna. You are brilliantly bridging the gap between what's currently perceived, the smoke, and what's entirely unperceived, the fire. It's literally the core engine of human reasoning.
Moving right along to Section 2, the invariable rule.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the concept of Vyāpti. Vyāpti is defined as the invariable relation between the hetu, which is the reason, or the clue, like our smoke, and the sadhya, which is the target we're trying to prove, like the fire. Think of it as this unbreakable, universal law. If the rule isn't absolute, if, smoke sometimes just mysteriously came from ice water, well, our entire system of logic would instantly collapse. Vyāpti is that ironclad guarantee that smoke always, without fail, accompanies fire. It's the hidden architecture gluing your entire argument together.
Let's move to this next bit and see how this builds in reality. This logical leap actually breaks down into 3 immediate mental steps. Step 1, you see the smoke, your hetu. Step 2, your brain instantly pulls up that unbreakable rule we just talked about. You recall the invariable relation, the Vyāpti. And step 3, armed with that absolute rule, you confidently infer the fire, the sadhya. It happens in a fraction of a millisecond, but this precise 3-step dance is occurring in your mind all day long. From diagnosing a funny sound in your car engine to figuring out a friend's subtle facial expression, it's the exact same process.
Section 3, inner thought versus outer debate. Indian philosophy brilliantly splits inference into 2 distinct categories. First, we have Svartanumana. This is inference for yourself. It's quiet. It's a deeply introspective personal reasoning. You're walking alone, you see the smoke, you recall the rule, you know there's a fire, you don't need to explain it to a single soul, it's your own private realization of truth. But then we have Pararthanumana. This is inference for others. This is the debate presentation. Suddenly the volume turns way up. You aren't just thinking anymore, you are proving. You have to take that quiet internal realization, break it all down, structure it perfectly, and articulate it out loud to an opponent or an audience. You have to clearly show them the smoke, loudly explain the rule, and forcefully lead them right to the fire. It is the vast, vast difference between knowing a truth in your heart and actually defending it in a public arena.
And that brings us to Section 4, when logic fails. So the crucial point is, ancient philosophers totally knew we were highly prone to messing this up. That's exactly why they categorized Hetvābhāsas, or fallacies of inference. These are the fakes, the imposters of logic, like using irrelevant or totally contradictory reasons. And it's actually wild how often modern debates fail for these exact same ancient reasons. Someone will aggressively try to prove a point by citing a completely irrelevant fact. Or even worse, they'll offer a reason that directly contradicts their own conclusion. I mean, seriously, just scroll through any social media comment section today, and you're basically reading a masterclass in Hetvābhāsas. We think we're making these brilliant points, but we're frequently just offering broken links in our logical chains.
And this brilliantly illustrates our whole journey today. We started with Anumana, that foundational spark of reasoning. We secured it with Vyāpti, the invariable rule that safely holds it all together. We explored the quiet, internal reflection of Svartanumana and contrasted it with the loud, structured public debate of Pararthanumana. And finally, we learned to spot the intellectual traps with Hetvābhāsas, the fallacies of inference. This single framework perfectly captures the sophisticated ancient logic we still use to navigate the world every single day.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty pivotal question. Exactly how solid is the invariable rule behind your next argument? The next time you find yourself getting into a debate, whether it's super high stakes in a boardroom or just chatting at the dinner table, I really want you to pause for a second. Are you truly standing on a solid Vyāpti, or are you falling for a fallacy? I challenge you to examine the deeply held foundations of your own logic before you make your next point. Keep questioning, keep carefully structuring those thoughts, and hey, thank you so much for exploring this with me.